Greetings, everyone. All right, so today, this is lesson 3, right? And I know this is supposed to be in class with Pincas, but, to set the tone and the precedence, I want to talk to everyone just about, where we are as a people, as quote unquote black people. We have an issue, right? We've excelled in pseudoscience, theoretical science, engineering. We've excelled in sports. We've excelled in music. We've excelled in arts, anything creative, and all in the pursuit of acceptance or the pursuit of wealth. And the one area we have never excelled in as a people is government. We've failed miserably when it comes to self-governance and self-administration. We failed miserably at land acquiring or at really separating ourselves and policing ourselves. As a matter of fact, most of our people actually have an issue with our people being in charge. And this comes because the only authority we've known has been another nation governing over us for such a long period of time. And those people who are allowed to succeed or who are appointed over us as managers have always done so to the detriment of the community at large. These people, these leaders, have sold us out. And so when it comes to a situation where I'm talking to somebody of my own race, my own ethnic identity, they always have this little thorn in their sides about, one, being self-governed. Because any one of us who has gotten to any type of authority has always, been an asshole. Pardon my French. I know you guys think I'm not supposed to speak a certain kind of way, but I'm going to be very direct, very candid, and very straightforward with you, because this has to change. When you're talking about returning to the land and returning to the kingdom, you're talking about being governed by yourself. Self-governance, right? The judge, the jury, the executioner, the police, everything to govern you has to be within you. Now, when you're talking about self-governance, governed by what? What is the set of rules and stipulations? The truth is, you believe that you're governed by a communal set of rules, but you're not. You are actually governed by a set of rules established by rulers that came a long time before you did. And where you think it's governed by a consensus, that is also a lie. The rules that govern your cities and your governments and the nations where you are based upon foundational principles of the people who are in authority, their people getting a preferential treatment. This doesn't change for anybody. This is not prejudice. The government and the nation that is in existence have to give itself an advantage to outsiders. Otherwise, invaders will come in, usurp the system, and conquer. And the system is designed to prevent that. It works at all costs and on all avenues. So where's our system? Well, the truth is, our people don't want our system. We have a system that gives us preferential treatment, but you prefer the word freedom over what it actually is. Nobody actually has freedom. There's rules and governings which govern how a person is to be policed, right? To give justice, okay? So nobody can be victimized or nobody can be taken advantage of to one degree or another. There's a safe area of business transactions, of policing. Now, when I say policing, I'm not talking about having quote unquote police, but there's a sort of Bill of Rights, so to speak. We don't have this as a people because we reject what is given to us. Our Bill of Rights for our people to excel. When you find and you read our laws, you find people cherry picking. What do I mean by cherry picking? So you want the freedom to be a homosexual. Okay, you have that where you are. The side effect of these activities, you don't want the issues that come with it. You want sexual freedoms. You want to be able for your daughter to be a harlot and your son to be a whoremonger. You want sexual freedoms, right? But you don't want the side effect of that. You don't want the single motherhood. You don't want the broken relationships or the destroyed homes. Well, you can't have it both ways. The freedoms you have now is the freedom to break our law given to us by our God freely. These freedoms come with living in other nations. They are not here in the land. This is lesson 3. Dealing with what's here and what's not here. Here, our law given by our God is our law. It is interpreted through thousands of years of preserved history. And when we're talking about preserved history, let me separate something. There is no difference between Ishmaelite culture and Israelite culture. It is one culture. If anybody has a Bible, even in your King James, in Isaiah chapter 60, the Most High says he will accept the offering of the Ishmaelites, the tribes of Midian and Ephah. These two tribes mentioned in Isaiah chapter 60 live here in Israel today. They are the Bedouin tribes. And these tribes still keep the traditions given to them by Abraham. So when you say an Ishmaelite or an Ismaili culture, you are actually separating yourself from your true identity. Your true identity as a child of Abraham comes with a culture that is still being kept in the land today. So those who separate themselves to think that the Israelites have a different culture, they're absolutely correct. The Israelites have the culture of the people in the lands where they live. So if you live in Africa, then you want to have an African culture, so be it, you're there. If you are an American, you want to have an American culture, so be it, you're there. If you want to be European, you go to Europe and have a European culture, but you will never have an Abrahamic culture sitting there. I want to tell you about fear. And I don't mean being afraid of something that is, apparent, but there is a mental fear. Most of you subscribe to the King James in some form or another. And you hear me talking about the Uziel, but you don't understand what I went through in my conversion to this particular book. I worked as an engineer. And as an engineer, I am familiar with reading instructions to make repairs or to restore something to an original state. It's called retrofitting. And as an engineer, when I read the King James, I am unable to put together the exact details of how to perform the duties and the task, which at the end of the day, you can be punished for not performing correctly. I'll give you an example. The priest must perform a holy fire, right? So he must prepare fire in a specific manner. Failure to do so will result in death. So when you read in the Old Testament that Nadab and Abihu died for performing the holy fire incorrectly, this means that there's a specified, dedicated service of the fire that must be kept, a tradition. You would think the tradition is lost, but it's not. You just don't have the details in the King James. Now, when I found the Uziel, I was struck with the greatest fear of my life. The fear before was, if I don't have the information, then I can't be punished for something I don't know. I'm ignorant. Ignorance is bliss. But when I came across the Uziel, my fear came in two parts. The first part is, one, this book has a lot of details. And if it doesn't work, does it mean that there's no God and will be lost forever? This was my first fear. The second fear that I had was, now that I have a book with all the details, if I begin to perform it, how much will I have to change? So these are the two fears that come with putting down the King James and picking up the Uziel. It's so detailed, the details lead you to say, well, it's so detailed, if this doesn't work, then we don't have anything. If it does work, how much will I have to change? Because this means that I have been wrong for my entire life. And I faced those. And after 2 years of implementing practically in the land the changes that I saw in the Uziel and having success, I know, for one, there really is a God, and two, he's correct about us being wrong and that we have to change. So my fear wasn't false, it was very real. Now the God I serve is real, and nobody has to sell me hope from week to week. I can deal with the facts and I can make the necessary changes. I can deal with the facts and make the necessary changes. This is a reality. Well, hopefully you've learned something today, and you can take from the stories whatever you wish. I don't need to convince anybody to make any changes. This is not a sales pitch. The book is so real that you're living the pages as I speak today. You're being confronted with the reality of not having your own government to govern you, of yourself. You're all governed by a foreign nation, and they are not governing you with what you would like to call justice or fairness. And you'll never have that until you leave. And when you leave, there's no sense in trying to figure out rules. You're going to have to accept the rules that you were given by your God. And the reality is, he's real and he does not require your belief. Your belief is not necessary, because you will do or not do. You will live or you will die. Wherever you believe, go there and test it. Try it out. Don't just believe and try it in your house. Get up, go where you believe the truth to be, and act it out there. You'll soon learn you're just wrong. Because I did, and I changed. You have the same opportunity, but before you come to listen to what I have to say, go explore all your other options. Let me be the last resort. Why? Because if you come here first, you'll never agree with me, because everything I say is defined by a book that you don't accept, even though the book doesn't require you to accept it. It requires you to obey. If you don't accept, you won't obey, and you're only going to die anyway. So have at it. Well, that's my time today. This is lesson 3, which is about how to follow instructions and why I get the instructions from the source that I get the instructions from. Peace.